Hey guys, Chris here from Carolat Farm. We are preparing for a huge snow event coming our way. They're projecting 2 to 3 feet of snow. That is not common for Virginia. We usually get 2 to 3 inches of snow. And so there's a lot of prep work that we need to do here around the farm to ensure that our horses, our facility, and ourselves are as prepared as possible. When it comes to preparing our horses for an event such as this, the things I need to think about most are water. Are the water troughs topped off? So that's one thing I need to do today. All of the troughs need to be brim full. The second thing I really want to take into consideration is their turnout situation. Is everyone in a place where they have access to shelter, where things hopefully won't be too slick? I also want to make sure that my horses have access to the sunniest turnouts possible, because that will help the snow to melt and hopefully give them a little extra reprieve from the cold with the sunshine. So our front winter turnout is pretty sunny, as is the turnout that Sweetheart and Snuggles will be having access to. And do they then have plenty of hay handy? That's another thing I have to work on today, is getting hay out here for our horses that are in the winter turnout. I've been carrying it across the farm. However, I know that with, again, a big snowstorm, there's no way I'm going to be trudging through that with hay bales. So I need to get everything in place today. My husband and I also have plans of putting a tarp along this back wall of the winter turnout run, and that will be a windbreak for the horses, who will then be taking shelter underneath. I have plenty of nice warm bedding here, old hay to keep them warm. So with that windbreak, they should be in really good shape here. From past experiences, it seems that when we get big storms, we lose power more often than several of our neighbors. It's just where we are at the very end of this particular grid. So we're getting our camper all ready, because the camper we can run on propane. We've filled several large propane cylinders, and we're gonna get it all squared away just in case we have to move indoors here. You know, the house we have a generator for, and we can run a little space heater, but if we lose power for any real length of time, it's just easier to move into the camper. So we're preparing the camper as well as the horses and the rest of the property, because we just don't know what we're gonna get. With a snowstorm such as this, we have a giant propane burner that we will be using outdoors to heat water in a large kettle if that's necessary. We just don't know what to expect, and so we really are of the mindset of being overly prepared, not underprepared. So there are a lot of things that I want to tell you about that we've done to do just that. We have plenty of hay, so that is a fantastic thing. And I plan on taking about 4 of these bales and putting them up closer to the horses that are in the front turnout under that covered run. I will probably even get a pallet to kind of keep them up off the ground. But we do want to have hay in both of the different locations. You know, we have these 2 different zones now that the horses have been moved up front, and some of them are still here in the back. So having access to plenty of hay will be very important, because let me tell you, you don't want to push a wheelbarrow with hay through snow. That's not going to be a very fun task. So moving it today before the snow comes is going to be a very important thing. Here in the hay barn, I also have some old hay that is handy and accessible. It has the orange strings on it there for footing, if I need to put anything down for traction. And you can see we have a very good supply of that new hay that is super tender, that everyone is doing a really good job eating these days. I also want to make sure that my cats, as well as my horses, have plenty of warm, dry places to take shelter. So here in the hay barn, we have multiple beds. I have another bed up in the tack room in the front of the barn, and they should all be in pretty good shape. I'm so happy that our front winter turnout is open and ready for horses, because that means that we don't have to utilize our back turnout. This particular area that I'm standing in, just in front of the hay barn, gets super, super icy. It takes forever for anything to melt, because as you can see, it stays in the shade all day long. So I'm so happy that we won't have any horses back here this time of year. Not only do you want to make sure that you have hay, water, and shelter covered for your horses as you're preparing for a big storm, but you also want to make sure that you have plenty of grain. If you're feeding grain like we actually are feeding 2 different varieties. We are feeding a Triple Crown Senior, and we're also then feeding the Teff hay pellets. And so you'll want to make sure that you have extra bags of grain handy, which we do. We just went to the store earlier this week. So not only do we have plenty of hay for our horses, but we have plenty of grain. And that will be very important because you would not want to run out in the middle of a snowstorm or event. If you get snowed in for a few days, you absolutely need to make sure that you have all of those bases covered. So I'm happy to say we're very good in that department as well. Oftentimes for smaller snows or like ice events, I do like to put old hay on my black mats for traction. I find that that helps them from being too slick. However, they're calling for so much snow that I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to leave my mats bare, and once the snow finishes falling and is then compacted, I will then get out here and try to start amending the footing with maybe some old hay. I'll see if I can't even scrape off some of the snow from the mats and then put hay down, but there's just no sense in doing it now until after the snow has finished falling. Take the opportunity when you can to pick your paddocks and your turnouts, because once a huge snow comes and the temperatures drop, you won't be able to get out here and pick for days. You can still pick in your stalls or your covered run-ins, but out here in the open, this is going to be next to impossible. So do what you can now and then get back to it just as soon as you can. A day like today, when our troughs are already low and ready for a refill, is the perfect time to scrub and dump them. My 2 troughs in the barnyard are now brim full, and as the horses work to drink down the water level over the next few days, we will be refilling them with hot water. I have found that the hot water is very beneficial for multiple reasons. 1, the horses prefer drinking water that isn't super ice cold when possible. 2, if you have ice in a trough without a de-icer, it helps to melt the ice. And 3, it helps your de-icer keep from freezing if it gets super, super cold. Our de-icers work well, but we've never really tested them with super, super cold temperatures over an extended period of time. We've had a night or two that dropped into like single digits or low teens, but we've never had a string of those days together, which is what we're actually now bracing for on the heels of this huge snow event. So not only will we have tons of snow, but it's then going to get really, really cold for a long period of time. I think I saw that we might have 5 to 7 really cold nights in a row. So the de-icer, this one here is originally rated for like moderate cold. I don't know if it's going to keep up. And so even if we have power, we might still have to be adding some hot water just to keep these from freezing over. I'll keep you posted. The last 2 tasks for today were bringing the hay up front, which we did, and then hanging the tarp as the windbreak on the end of our run-in shelter. So after those 2 things were completed, we felt really good that we were well prepared for the storm heading our way. I will say I have some very inquisitive young minis, and Shenanigans here, he's a chewer. That's how he learns about the world. I mean, Shenanigans is quite the ham. We'll see if this tarp survives the winter storm. These boys might chew right through it. Watching the sunset, one of these last nights before we get a ton of snow heading our way. We won't see the ground for quite some time once it falls. Thank you so much for joining me today as I work to prepare our horses, our facility, and just ourselves in general for this huge snow event coming our way. We have so many preparations in place. I think we'll do just fine. But if you're like us, I wish you the very, very best with whatever winter weather you have coming your way. Stay warm, stay dry, stay safe. Check back soon because we will certainly have some updates as we work to dig our way out of the snowstorm, and we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.